Hi, everyone. We're back. Welcome to our second episode of DMV Confidential. I'm Kenzie Chase.
And I'm Jenny Gable.
And the story we wanted to bring to you today is about a 28-year-old woman from Nepal who was living in Manassas Park. And her disappearance brought the whole community together. And so we're going to just kind of dive into a little bit about what happened and where we're at today.
Yeah. So kind of as you mentioned, Kenzie, Mamta, it's actually a little bit similar to the case that we discussed in our first episode, if you watched last week's episode, where Mamta, 28-year-old Mamta, did not show up to work. She worked as a nurse at Inova Hospitals and UVA Health.
So very similar to our first case. We're going to get into, there's a lot of differences between the two cases, but it does start off very similar where she doesn't show up
to work and her coworkers become concerned, so they actually contacted police when she wasn't there. You know, she hadn't shown up the first week of August of 2024 for work.
So this is actually a more recent case.
Yes.
So the first one we covered from our last podcast was a 20-year-old case. This one's pretty recently in the past year or so.
A little bit over a year now. Yeah. So she didn't show up. They contact police, and that's kind of when police go to her home in Manassas Park where she lived with her husband and her 1-year-old daughter to kind of do a welfare check on her.
So we're actually going to show you some body cam footage from that interaction with the husband when she first goes missing.
For Miss Mamta Kafle.
Yeah, we see like on Tuesday, Wednesday, she left and then she says she's gonna go either New York or Texas, and then she left she had the phone and then she destroyed that phone and then she left. Then
So you just heard from the husband, and so now investigators are actually starting to get into their search. So the husband's actually the one who reports her missing in August 5th. Mm-hmm. So
They said she disappeared on or around July 31st. There were some discrepancies about when she was last seen. But as you mentioned, it took kind of a few days for her husband to report her missing. And as you could hear in that body cam video from when police conducted the welfare check, he kind of said that he was a little bit unsure about her whereabouts.
Yeah, he wasn't quite sure. And according to our previous reporting, they kind of were in an argument, so sometimes it wasn't unusual for her to kind of go off on her own and not show up for a day or so. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where he tells police during their first thing. And so now the community begins searching for her.
Yeah.
And the community, oh my gosh, they like really come together for this.
Yeah, so they do several searches in the neighborhood, vigils, because they become concerned knowing that Mamta's not the type of person who would just kind of disappear, especially having a young daughter.
Yeah. Her daughter, you mentioned earlier she's one. At this point in the investigation, she's actually under one.
Yeah.
So like a very young baby.
Yeah. But it's just not like her to kind of not be around for her daughter. So they become concerned, begin rallying. I believe it was August 14th. They went to a nearby trail, Blooms Park Trail.
Yeah.
Where she went often with her daughter to kind of hang up flyers and
so they begin looking for her. And something I want to note is the whole community is kind of getting together for this, but the husband doesn't. Mm-hmm. He's not part of these searches.
Right.
So
which was interesting to me.
Yeah.
That was something that struck me.
I would definitely be searching for my spouse if if I didn't hear from him or if I was concerned about him and the whole community was looking for him, I would definitely be looking. But
because it seemed like the community was really gathering around her and like trying to raise awareness about where she was, and with this search,
I think one thing that I saw was the fact that he was just taking care of the baby at this time. So maybe that's why he wasn't going out and doing all these searches, because, he is a really young child at home, and what are you going to do with the child when everybody else is searching for her? But so we actually want to play a clip from one of the gatherings where he actually does show up and is kind of thanking the community for looking for his wife. And so here's the missing flyer of her. Where you
just thank you for what you are doing, community, and then please keep doing, and then just I need your help in a all positive way. Just keep doing what you are doing, and then in a positive way, just help us in this tough time.
Yeah, so I think that was actually the search that I had mentioned at the Blooms Trail, Park Trail. So he didn't participate, but he did kind of do this like impromptu press conference with some media that were there and community members. And as you could hear in the video, just kind of thanking the community for showing up. You know, he's saying that he's having to take care of the baby and they're like stepping up to kind of aid in the search for her there. So
yeah. So Mamta Bhatt, they start looking into everyone that could possibly harm her. And so they start identifying persons of interest. And sure enough, the husband's name actually is listed, which is something that's a big difference between our first case that we covered with Leslie Prier, where the husband was never a suspect. That one's kind of resolved a little more.
Yeah.
This one, the husband is a suspect, a person of interest in the case.
Yeah, so they kind of, they said they had a few people, as you mentioned, of people of interest, but included her husband. And they had mentioned at the time that he was initially more cooperative in the investigation, but as the investigation went on, wasn't really cooperating with investigators, which I found interesting there. So,
and they do mention, by the way, he's a 37-year-old man. He's also from Nepal. So both him and his wife from Nepal. He doesn't speak the best English, so we'll kind of talk about that later and how that actually plays into the investigation and some of the troubles that investigators run into. But yeah, so they begin looking into the husband, and something about him that I thought was interesting is he actually tried to be a recruit for a police department, for Fairfax County Police.
Which I did find that really interesting too, because I remember initially hearing about this case. I'd actually just kind of started here at DC News Now, and this happened about a year ago. And I did not remember hearing that he had been hired as a police recruit, but apparently was dismissed from the department just after about 22 days at the academy.
Yeah.
So I also found that pretty interesting that he had tried to, work in law enforcement, and then now he's kind of listed as a person of interest and a suspect in his wife's disappearance.
Yeah. So obviously his wife is missing, and this part I actually am a little surprised by. When someone's missing, I don't know what the usual protocol is, I guess, at this point. And they even say that she was missing under involuntary circumstances. They said that very early in the investigation. But it wasn't until 2 to 3 weeks later that they actually got a search warrant and looked at the home.
Yeah.
And they searched that for
they
8 hours.
Several hours that day. Yeah. So they were definitely doing a thorough search of the home. And what they found was really interesting, but also integral to the investigation.
Yeah. So they find enough evidence at the home that they end up arresting the husband.
Yeah.
And so that is how Naresh Bhatt gets arrested.
Yeah.
So the community is shocked by this.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them, one of the community member even said that they had just spoken to him and they had asked how the baby was. And he was like, I'm going to get through this. So his arrest was surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, as you saw in the video we played earlier, maybe he wasn't at some of these searches, but he did show up and kind of thank people for helping out, and they were rallied behind him. So as you can imagine, a lot of people were probably shocked and not expecting for, he's walked out of their home in handcuffs after they do this search warrant.
Yeah.
So
something that does come out in the investigation is the Commonwealth does say that Mamta was a victim of domestic abuse. They don't specifically, as far as I'm aware, they don't specifically say that that was as a result from her husband, Naresh. I mean, maybe she was in a different relationship or something, but her coworkers do kind of have their suspicions where they do say that she had spoken to them and sort of laid out some of the things she was going through.
Yeah, I know one of Mamta's close friends who's been very vocal just throughout this whole case, and we've DC News Now, we've spoken to her throughout our coverage as well. She had mentioned that, as you said, she was a victim of domestic abuse, and she said that out of respect for her privacy, in the investigation, maybe they felt that they didn't want to share some things, but going forward, she said, we aren't afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
So she also alleged that he was abusive to Mamta.
Yeah.
So this coming out after he's been arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, they start looking into evidence post-arrest. And my gosh, Jenny, there's so much.
Yeah.
So this is a lot that we're about to get into.
It's a lot. And I will say that the evidence section, especially what they found in the home, kind of plays a big role. And we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah. So they actually do their first search warrant around August 21st.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she was reported August 5th, so kind of give you like a brief timeline of when this happened. But they execute multiple other additional search warrants several days later, so about 6 days later, I think August 27th. And they look through and they begin finding even more stuff. They're a little vague at first about what they find.
Yeah.
Prosecutors later kind of go into more of those details, but they pretty much just say that they find what they're looking for, more or less.
Yeah. And they also, what I found was interesting, this was about August 30th, they shut down a nearby park.
Oh, yeah.
Near the house called Signal Hill Park to look for evidence. And it's kind of about, I believe, 1.5 miles from the home. And they said that information kind of led them there to kind of
They were following
investigate
leads
further.
and tips.
Yeah. So they were searching kind of all around, not only like the search warrants on the home, but like all around in the nearby community for leads on tips about, because at this point they still have not found her.
They had looked all around too. There was
So-
other locations that they later cite that like Bloom's
Yeah.
Crossing community area surrounding Manassas Christian School. There was several different areas that they kind of had in their sights.
Yeah.
And some of those showed up with stuff of evidentiary value, others did not. But the evidence that they show in court, that they present in court, actually really lays out just how much stuff was in this home. So they basically, this part's actually a similar, like, where this incident occurred to our previous case, where Leslie Preer, where it was in the master bedroom bathroom.
Yeah, that's where they found a lot of evidence. And actually, as you're mentioning, like prosecutors in court, they said that crime scene investigators said that they've been doing this job for years, like since like 2011, and they had never seen this much blood.
Gosh, yeah.
So that was
insane.
really striking to me. That they kind of also mentioned that they came into the home and it seemed like things were in disarray.
Yeah, disarray.
Yeah.
It wasn't organized. They end up like seeing that the carpet looked as if it had been scrubbed, like someone had scrubbed it
or
clean.
tried to clean it up.
Yeah. And then when they like look more into the carpet, there's just blood.
Yeah.
There's just tons and tons of blood.
Yeah.
And they use a Blue Star, I think that's Blue Star forensic technology, to look at even more more evidence. And again, they're just finding piles upon
And
piles.
actually what was interesting about that is that they said when they used the technology that the prosecutor said that the entire shower floor glowed.
Oh, yeah.
So it had been as if someone had tried to, similar to the last case, clean up the blood in this bathroom and kind of clean up some. And this is a couple weeks after she was reportedly disappeared. But they also found, it seemed like blood was stuck in parts of the bathtub as well.
So, and they basically described that it looked as if someone had sort of dragged someone, but who they're assuming is Mamta at this point, but they haven't confirmed that with DNA evidence quite yet. And someone dragged the body in to the bathroom, and that's why there's sort of these like marks on the carpet and sort of smear stains, and the shower is glowing, and so that's kind of where it started from the master bedroom and brought in.
Yeah.
They also found blinds.
Yeah, that's the part that I was also like, I believe it was blinds from the bathroom
window
in the closet.
That was tucked away, that was kind of hidden. Now, the part that's crazy to me, Jenny, is he's been living in this home, like the husband and the child, the 1-year-old baby, has been living in this home during this entire time. So there's obviously been...
For nearly a month at this point.
So there has been the window, like blinds in the closet. There has been some of this evidence, blood on the carpet.
Yeah.
So...
And I believe investigators even mentioned at one point that the amount of blood that they found in the home indicated that the injuries were not survivable.
Yeah. So they don't have the body yet. They don't have the body, but they do say that the amount of blood would mean like someone wouldn't be able to survive that much blood loss. So, which is so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have the body. You don't really know what's happened, but you know that who this it's not survivable.
Yeah.
No one,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's definitely a very sad situation. I can't even imagine how, like, her loved ones and close community is feeling, because they're still trying to find her and, you know, hold out hope for her. And then they're, you know,
and then this amount
these
of
details coming out about.
and then it just kind of, I mean, it would just crush your spirit to
Yeah.
hear that the amount of blood would be unsurvivable. And more evidence comes out in court about Naresh
Yes.
himself and what led investigators to believe that he's a suspect. Now, again, we want to be very clear, he is still a suspect in this case.
Yes.
He has not been convicted, and we'll get more into some of the details and troubles with that end, but he's not been convicted, but this is sort of what led investigators to look closely at him. They basically they find phone records and sort of data records about where Mamta's phone was and where his phone was. And
at the time of around when she disappeared. And one thing that was interesting is that they said that on August 1st, her Mamta's phone pinged, I believe, in Loudoun County and near a body of water that apparently, according to prosecutors, this was revealed in the courtroom, that it was near a body of water he told investigators he had visited.
Yeah,
so that's where her phone kind of last pinged as well.
So same area, they were both in the same, at least their phones. Their phones were both in the same area around the same time. I also thought it was interesting, at one point they mentioned that around this time, on or around July 30th, that his phone was in airplane mode.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even know you could track
I
that.
didn't know that they would. I mean, I just found that really interesting.
Yeah,
I feel like in these cases you learn about things that they're able to kind of uncover. I didn't even know they could.
I know.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that fact, because usually, you know, I would have just assumed that it would have been like, oh, his phone was off, or like his phone just didn't register on any cell service. But no, the fact that they were able to uncover the fact it was in airplane mode, I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. That also kind of stuck with me when I was hearing about it.
Something that they also found in the home, they found passports that had been kind of ready to go for him and the daughter. They also uncovered that he had recently sold his Tesla.
Yeah, and there was, I believe, they looked into that he had been trying to sell the house. Like, I guess they discovered that he had been looking into selling the home as well. So that also raised alarm bells for them.
This is definitely something that comes up in a lot of cases, but for the most time, it's not a make or break. But something I want to highlight is his Google searches, because that also did come up in court. And I'm just going to read it verbatim. But he searched up, how long does take to marry after spouse dies, and what happened debt after spouse dies?
Yeah. And I believe he, according to prosecution, looked these searches up on his government-issued laptop in April. So this would have been a few months before.
Prior she was ever missing,
Yeah.
So that's something that they bring up all this in court. They also talk about how before she went missing, or around when she went missing, he had bought 3 large knives.
Yeah, and they were only apparently able to find 2 of them, I believe.
They'd only found 2. The third one is still MIA.
Yeah, and then there was also, I believe, the next day, July 31st, after he had apparently bought these knives, they said that he went back again to buy cleaning supplies. Yeah.
Yes.
So
he bought knives and cleaning supplies, and police are tying this in to the carpet looking like it was cleaned, to there being a lot of blood, to the knife being missing, to his phone being around the same area as her phone.
Yeah.
All this stuff they're kind of tying in to this investigation and why they're able to.
Yeah. And I will say, this is something I just remembered mentioning, that they mentioned that he had tried to sell his Tesla and the house. I believe the defense said that this was because he had lost his job as a result of the investigation.
So they have the defense, and we can kind of dive into the defense a little bit more, but that's kind of what the defense is saying. There's a lot. They're saying there's a logical reason for why
him to do this.
He sold his Tesla, why he's trying to sell the house, and that's because he's having financial troubles. He has a young baby, and this case has made national news.
Yeah, it got national attention.
It's probably not the easiest to find a job when your name's being put everywhere, but so they're looking into that. That's why that's their logic of why he's selling his Tesla, looking into selling his house. Not a malicious reason.
Yeah.
So he is eventually charged, which is very hard in these cases because you always hear no body, no crime.
Right. Yeah.
So he is eventually charged with concealing a dead body, also he's not charged with murder at this time.
I remember when I heard about this case as we were covering it, that was interesting to me. I had never heard of something like this where he was charged with concealing a dead body, which is a felony, but not the murder.
Yeah, I have heard of that, and I think usually it is in these cases of there's no body to prove anything because you can't show like how she was murdered or killed or how she died.
Yeah.
So, but it's easier to prove that maybe someone knew where her dead body was.
Which makes sense, but I guess for me it was more so because they're still alleging that prosecution's still alleging that he's the one that had murdered her,
committed this crime.
But again, no body.
Yeah, so that's very difficult, I think, to prove in court sometimes. It doesn't necessarily hold up. So now now that he's been charged, they kind of go through some bond hearings. And that's kind of when they talk even more about him not being able to speak English. So that's kind of one of the reasons, like, they talk about him having to use an interpreter to kind of understand what's going on.
And that resulted, I believe, a couple times. The court hearings were kind of pushed because he apparently did not have an interpreter available for the hearings. Yeah, and I know that he was denied bond, I believe, around twice.
Yeah, he was denied bond twice. So the defense's main argument was, I mean, you're gonna see this argument multiple times, but there's no body. So you don't have probable cause to even keep him here. Yeah. But the judge pretty much takes like only a few minutes before denying bond.
It was very quick, and I think they were saying that he was a flight risk, and they deemed him a possible danger to the community after kind of hearing more from the prosecution. But very quick bond hearings there.
Yeah, so he was denied bond. And something I want to just talk about a little bit is during this whole time, during this bond hearing, during the arrest, the community is still just drawn together. Yeah. And so when they find out about this arrest and when they find out about him being charged, they actually kind of go in and kind of start this almost like a movement, Justice for Mamta. And this is kind of you seeing the community kind of gather together. They're hosting prayers. They're drawing everybody together to kind of get on board to kind of figure out what happened.
Yeah. They're rallying, like community rallies, prayer vigils. Like they had several events for her. Still continued like searches through like neighborhood parks and like sharing her flyer. Yeah. So you can just really tell that Mamta, she had a lot of people, you know, love and care about her. So
and even some of the people that describe her, I mean, they describe her as inspiring. She really took the initiative. She made you feel welcome. Like you could do anything. Yeah. And I mean, some of the people that we hear from in part of these investigations were, you know, her coworker, just like people that really knew her. And they talk about how she had so much to live for. She was
so young,
such a good person. She was a great mother. She was doing all these things. She had so many things she wanted to accomplish in her life.
Yeah. And I think they just, as you mentioned, like they recall like throughout speaking to the media several times that she was just an encouraging person. Yeah. Very encouraging, just a very good friend and a good mother. So at this point, they still have not found her, and, you know, they're still worried because they know it's not like her to not be there for her baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is kind of what's going on in the background as all of this court stuff and legal stuff is going on. And the defense is holding to their point that there is no body. There is no reason why you should be charging him with this. There's no reason why you shouldn't be getting bond. They actually refer to this as this is just a, quote, media frenzy. Yeah. And, again, providing these logical explanations for why he was here, why he sold this, why he was looking into selling his house. So logical explanations for some of these allegations against him. But it doesn't really pan out the way that I'm sure the defense attorney plans, because he is actually not just charged with concealment of a dead body, he is then added additional charges, and he's officially charged with murder.
Yeah. So he's charged with her murder and defiling a dead body. I believe that was December of 2024. So several months at this point after she's gone missing, they're able to charge him. And they
because the DNA finally comes back positive for Mamta's blood.
Yeah, police say that there's different reasons for this, but as you mentioned, like the blood that they had tested from throughout the home, and they said there was a lot of blood, came back positive, and that was like the main integral part that was allowed them to kind of charge him with murder because they still haven't found her at this point.
Yeah. So we're actually going to show this is him being arrested.
Yeah.
This is obviously before
Last August.
Yeah, this is obviously before he goes to court and all that stuff. But this is actually him being arrested, and we're actually about to hear from
Police when he was charged.
Yeah, Manassas Park police about what the charge was, him being charged with murder.
Yeah.
And you'll kind of hear a brief clip of them kind of describing part of the case. And
They also kind of show in this video, you can see they're like from the search warrant pulling out what appears to be.
You know, from the beginning, we believed that she was murdered in the case based on the crime scene. This just helps the case, and it kind of certifies what we thought occurred, that, you know, this actually occurred. There's a lot of evidence. To sit here and try to remember every piece of it. I know the crime scene was a big one. The forensic unit of Prince William County said it was one of the worst crime scenes they've seen.
So we won't play the full clip, but that's
It's a
kind
long
of
press conference.
Yeah, it's a long press conference. But you can kind of just hear him talking a little bit about why he feels that this is justified.
Yeah.
Now, we don't actually know what is going to happen next because there's been so many delays and trouble with actually even just getting to trial.
Yeah, so about that, like his case was, you know, it was set for December 9th, but then when he was charged with this murder charge, the judge decided to kind of combine the charges into one case. And I believe that the trial was then set for September, I believe.
Yeah, it was set for September, and then
it was
they
pushed
ended
again.
Yeah, they ended up delaying it again.
Yeah, it was then now pushed to October 2026.
Yeah, so
yes,
it originally was supposed to be in December 2024.
Yeah,
2025.
2024.
Okay.
Yes, then pushed again to September 2025 through October 2025.
And now it's pushed all the way to October 2026.
Yes.
So we still have a good long while before we ever actually figure out what happened and if the husband will be convicted on this.
Yeah, because again, he still has not been convicted of murder. Just
there has been
charged.
There has been no plea deal. Yeah. There has been no conviction. So, I mean, we don't know how this is all going to play out, but we are going to be watching it closely. And it's a ways out, but keep following us. Keep
any developments.
Keep up to date because we're going to be providing that update whenever we do end up seeing how this all unfolds. Now, something we wanted to talk about briefly, and we only have a few minutes left, but I did want to touch about the daughter.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking.
Just briefly, because that's someone that really is just so innocent in all of this.
And just caught up in the middle of this because, you know, at this point, it's been about a little over a year now, and, you know, Mamta has still not been found, and now her father is, you know, behind bars facing charges like this. So at this point, it's just a really heartbreaking situation. Yeah,
so that's just something we want to talk about. The family ended up taking, for context, the family at some point from Nepal came and traveled, and she's in the family's custody right now. Yeah. So she is safe, but it's just something that's really hard to even wrap your head around about what happened.
I think initially she was actually put into social services for care until, like, as you said, Mamta's mother and brother were able to come travel here and kind of, you know, take care of her. So, yeah. So that's pretty much all we have today, but we wanted to kind of leave you with the last question of that this is still unfolding. Yeah.
Where is Mamta? Yeah. Where is her body? We still don't know. And as we come and find out all these answers, we are going to be keeping you updated. Yeah. So stay tuned, follow us, keep up, and watch next week.